we could please introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Leslie Hervey, interim clerk.
Alicia Reese, County Commissioner.
Good afternoon. I'm County Commissioner Denise Treehouse.
Jeff Aludo, County Administrator. Michael Friedman, Legal Counsel.
Thank you so much. I am Stephanie Summerall Dumas, President of the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners. We'll start, as we always do, with silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I ask, as you have your silent prayer, if you can just think about the people in Ukraine and in Russia and all the conflict that is going on there. And then there are a lot of weather-related disasters that are going on. So if you could take a moment for silent prayer. Amen. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous session.
Second. Commissioner Summer Dumas,
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We have several cards to speak. The majority of them are for the public hearing. I will ask Michelle Heist, if I pronounce that right. Welcome.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Commissioners. I'm back. Michelle Heist here from JFS. Just first off, I want to say thank you to our workers who, again, who are on the phones, processing cases and meeting with staff. I've come before you several times. And as I said before, you might get used to seeing me because I'll keep coming back. I just want to make the community aware, and maybe you all aware, of how much the community utilizes JFS and our frontline workers, processing cash cases, food cases, medical cases, employment assisted cases, and then also offering child welfare services, among many other services. JFS is in a rough spot. If you ask the frontline workers, they're hurting. We need you all to be aware of this. We need the community to be aware of this because our turnover rate is continuing, which is going to mean longer times on the phone waiting, longer times for reunification, longer. And we're just wondering, is anyone listening? We're wondering, is anyone really listening? Does anyone really care? Because from the workers' perspective, that's not the case. And so because that is the question, when I get the opportunity, what I'm going to start doing is coming over here and I'm going to share stories from the workers themselves, past and present, like the one I got yesterday, a children's services worker who put in her resignation to leave. And you know what she said? I've given my life to JFS. I have put the clients above my family. And I love what I do, but this place doesn't appreciate me. This place doesn't value me. And I have to take my value and I have to take it somewhere else. And I have many more stories to share with you. But I guess maybe that's what's going to happen is that I have to come over here and share the stories for the workers themselves. So thank you for the opportunity for me to be before you. I really hope that you all take this into consideration, that we are losing valuable people that we don't have to lose. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you certainly can come at any time to speak before us. And we are listening. We care. This whole board cares. You have a new director, and I'm sure there's a process in place where you can share what the employees are feeling and what their concerns are. And I hope that will happen. So we welcome you to come back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a public hearing in a few minutes, but we'll move forward to comments and motions from the commissioners. And I have quite a few today. Just wanted to say a few things about what I've done this week. I had a breakfast with the former Argentina president, Mauricio Macri. He came down as it relates to FIFA, not representing FIFA, but he is in the soccer business and he was here. And there were a few of us, about 10 of us, who sat for a breakfast to discuss the county and what we can bring to the table as it relates to a possible FIFA appearance in 2026. So that was a very good meeting. Also attended the Cincinnati Pops orchestra. They wanted to talk to us about their mission, and it was a luncheon. They also had a Aretha Franklin concert rehearsal right after the luncheon for us to enjoy. That was very well received. And then I attended Reverend Fred L. Shuttlesworth, his 100th legacy birthday party. And we gave a proclamation from the entire board on Friday. And there was a Public Servant Appreciation Day on Sunday at the Legacy Point Church. Minister Paul Booth Jr. invited as many servants, elected officials that wanted to come, and they recognized us on Sunday during his service. I had a board meeting with CVB and looking forward to Friday, their annual meeting. I am on their executive board. And of course, the White House briefing that happens every week, I attended that. Nothing really significant that I need to bring to the board at this time. And I just had a meeting with Holly Chrisman and James Noyes regarding today's public hearing. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my concerns as it relates to, let me just say that I just completed my state capital task force. There was a group of about 25 businesses, agencies that were a part of that. We had about 6 meetings to talk about what entities in Hamilton County should be funded through this state capital monies for infrastructure specifically. And there we wrote a letter to Governor DeWine after we completed the process, asking for $24.9 million for 13 arts and cultural agencies that want to expand and develop their infrastructure. There were 24 parks and rec and local government initiatives to expand their infrastructure. Social and human services, we recommended 9 entities, and this is all for infrastructure for $24.9 million. We will hear very soon whether or not those things were approved. And I'll just move on to a couple other comments. I'm a little concerned about the distribution of our ARP monies. We've come up with lots of areas where money should go. Really excited about it. In the selection process, our staff have worked very hard to make sure there is a good selection process. But I have 3 concerns. First, for instance, the nonprofit. I just don't want the same organizations to continue to get the monies. When I say get the monies, it doesn't have to be ARP money. If I see that the county has allocated money in 2021, a good amount of money, why are we giving it to them again in 2022? And I just have a real concern about making sure we get those little agencies that are doing great things, that they get some of the money and we don't continue to give large amounts to the same agencies. And then secondly, I received a list for arts and cultural agencies. There are a lot of new ones on there. I was really happy about that. But many of them, as I said, have received monies before. We have to have someone not just look at the application, but just really look at their financial report, which is part of the process. But also we may have to do more research. And if they were given, we gave one entity $2.7 million in 2021. And now we are looking at allocating $250,000 more for this year. So my question is, what did you do with I'm not saying they didn't do, but we need to know, what did they do with the 2.7 million? Lastly, we have a program that the board said would be good for large event grants, and we have allocated money in our budget. And the criteria to qualify to receive money is because you have to have a $40 million impact on Hamilton County. Now, how many groups or events have a $40 million impact on Hamilton County? How many can qualify? And I'm wondering, did we have specific groups that we were trying to pigeonhole that could meet that criteria? I hope not. But I think that's a high level to reach. And I want to say, we really need to ask more questions and a detailed, specific documentation of distribution. If you say you're going to give 300,000 toward performers, then I need to know what performers, which ones are getting the money. If the performers don't come, does the money come back to Hamilton County? The distribution that we're looking at is $690,000 toward a large group event to help them. Well, my question is, are we helping them or are we doing this event? I just am not, and I want to put it on the record that I am not in agreement with this large event group application. And also, we put it in the budget, but the criteria for the large event came way after the money was in the budget. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I think the impact is too high. I don't think I know I don't have enough detail. My understanding, it does not have to come back to us because we already allocated the millions that we wanted in there. But I am not comfortable with $690,000 without more detail. Did talk to the administrator. He gave me some detail on some of the questions that I had, but I have many more, like, what do they plan on making off of this? Just a whole lot of questions that I have already submitted. That being said, I'd like to direct the administration to have staff look at starting a small event grant program. We sometimes, once again, we forget about the small agencies. We forget about the small communities. And so I'm asking, because these community events that happen in Delhi or Deer Park or Forest Park, they need help too. And I know I've heard that wasn't allocated. We can find the money. We always do. We have money in our reserve. And I would like for the staff to get together the criteria for a small event grant program and let the communities know we want to help you. We want to provide that societal impact where more people are coming out and they want to do things together like those small festivals, and we want to help you. Okay, that's it for that. And lastly, I had an event that I am extremely excited about, and I asked Bridget if she could put up a picture up there for everybody to see, because I'm really kind of boasting about it. So there I am in the picture over in the center in the navy blue suit, about 3 rows back at the confirmation hearings for our potential Supreme Court justice. I was invited yesterday. Actually, let's see, the days are coming together. It was on Tuesday, I was invited, jumped on the plane Wednesday morning and sat in there. They only give you 30 minutes, but they gave me an hour. So I was really happy about it. And it was something that I will never forget. It was so monumental for me. I hope things turn out in a positive way, which would be, in my opinion, for her to be appointed as the first African-American Supreme Court justice. I was the first African-American for this board, and to be the first and sitting with the first was just so very emotional for me. So I wanted to share it with all of you. But I came back, I wanted to stay a little bit, jump back to come to this meeting. So I just wanted to share that. And that will end my report. Thank you. Okay, Vice President Reese.
Thank you. And let me just say, I'm glad that you were there to represent us. This is a historic time, and this is Women's History Month. And we can learn some things from this hearing, some of the things that we're seeing as it relates to women and the double standards that we have to overcome. So this is also historic, not just for her to become hopefully become our next Supreme Court justice, but what so many women in their everyday lives and on the jobs have to go through. The extra scrutiny, the resume has to be 3 times as good. You have to have a certain kind of demeanor. and particularly African-American women, not, you got to look a certain way, you got to sound a certain way. It's just so many things. You got to bite your tongue a lot, even when you're overly qualified for the job. So we're seeing this history in the making, not only for her, but also for other little girls that come forward and seeing what she has to do and overcome to get there. So thank you very much for being there to represent us. Wanted to highlight, last week I said, Taft, good luck. We were going to the Final Four. And I want to say that Taft won. They are the state champions. And that's my mother's alma mater. I just wish my mother could be here to see it. She was proud Taft senator. And we went to many tournaments, almost making it. And this time they didn't. So they will be added to the celebration that we're going to be having on March 31st here, where we will be honoring them and Purcell Marion girls and several other athletes from Hamilton County who have made some big accomplishments. So inviting all alumni if they want to come down and from the various schools, former coaches, current coaches, principals, come on down, because a lot of times when young people do something wrong, it seems to run all the time. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. And when we do something right, sometimes it only is 10 seconds. And I want to put more emphasis on the young people when they do something right, so that others will then look at them and say, this is who we should follow, and give them the same amount of attention. So really, and their story of how they last year came up short, and the disappointment, the tears of hurt and pain, and coming back home, they got right back to work and got there. And this time it was tears of joy. So they've got a story behind that. And so we'll be honoring 2 state championship teams and others. Taft state champions, we'll be honoring Purcell Marion. We'll be honoring Mr. Paul McMillan, I believe. And we've got 2 All-Americans coming hopefully from Mount Notre Dame, and I believe Winton Woods. So we have got some folks, some young people are doing it on the national scene, and they're right from our county. So March Madness on March 31st, right here at 1 o'clock. I want to also say I wanted to have Ain't Too Proud was coming, but they have a COVID policy. And so we're going to give them a proclamation. They've been doing big crowds. And the reason we wanted to also have them, African-American show on Broadway coming, I think it's the first one coming since COVID, to the Aronoff. So we've been going back and forth, but they have these COVID, heavy, strict COVID guidelines. And certainly we don't want to be responsible for one of the singers not being able to perform. So we're going to give a proclamation. They're going to send us a thank you. So I wanted to also talk about that. In addition, I will be participating today on a panel for Greater Cincinnati Foundation, All in Cincinnati. And it's their Women's History Celebration today. So hopefully we'll be out in time so I could jump on. But I will be joining Cincinnati Public School Board member, Dr. Kareem Moffitt, Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey, Council member Mika Owens, Woodlawn Vice Mayor Kiana Tribou, and also Councilwoman Victoria Parks. And we'll be talking about a number of issues with lots of women today at 3 o'clock for that program. And I want to thank Ms. Denisha for putting that program together. So those are the things that I have. We did say a special prayer for those as it relates to the daily tornadoes and all of the bad weather that's hitting so many places. But I do want to give a special to New Orleans. I went to Grambling State University down in Louisiana. It's not in New Orleans, but we got a lot of alumni from New Orleans. We spent a lot of time down there. And sometimes you just wonder, like, how much more can New Orleans take? So I just want to also extend a special prayer for those in charge and those who are down there in that area. So that's what I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a few things. Continuing on the thread of Women's History Month, the flags are all flying at half staff because we've lost a great Madeleine Albright, former Secretary of State. And so I do want to note that the county flags are flying low in recognition of her passing. And I am disappointed that Ain't Too Proud is not going to be here today. I was looking forward to that. I thought we could all sing along. That would be a disaster from my end. But anyway, we'll have to do, and I totally get the COVID policy, right? None of them want to get sick. So, but super disappointed. Maybe in the future we can get that going. So a couple things. I attended the Silverton Mayor's Brunch. John Smith always has a brunch, and he hasn't done it during COVID, but he did, and Commissioner Reese was there as well. So that was good fun to see everybody out in Silverton enjoying the mayor's brunch. And from there, I went to the Timeless Recording Studio opening over in Evanston. There's a lot going on in Evanston. A lot of businesses are opening along that strip on Montgomery Road, and it's a real deal studio. It was really impressive. So congratulations to them for getting that open. And then I attended an open house at the Urban League. I think that was yesterday, to hear about some of the good work that they are doing related to some of the work that we are doing. So it was just a really good forum. And one last thing forward looking, HCARC, the Hamilton County Addiction Response Coalition, will have its annual report tomorrow. We're going to have it at 9:30 at the Duke Energy Center. It's an annual report. We've done it virtually the last 2 years, but it really is kind of the state of how we are doing related to the addiction crisis in this community. And it's an important topic to focus on. We are still in the throes of an addiction epidemic in Hamilton County. The work's been going on for 6 or 7 years, but it's sobering, but it's also important to check in and see how we're doing and see what the county is doing in partnership with all the folks that are members of the Hamilton County Addiction Response Coalition. So again, it's going to be down at the Convention Center at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And at 10 o'clock, the One Stop will have their monthly grouping. This is the One Stop is a lot of services gather, literally a one stop for people that need services, whether they're re-entering the community, whether they suffer from mental health or addiction issues. There are many, many resources that gather together and do this one stop. And so we're purposely having these things happen at the same place at the same time so that people can be exposed to both things at once. So I hope that the both of you can join, but it'll be a good annual report. There's been a lot of work going on in this space. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really need to digress for just a minute. The board decided that we wanted to give money to expand broadband, Wi-Fi expansion specifically in several Hamilton County communities last year. This included grant funding for the city of Mount Healthy, $150,000, Cheviot, $30,000, Deer Park, $90,000, Lincoln Heights, $150,000, and Lockland, $100,000, for a total of $520,000 we awarded. Now, unfortunately, and we are working with Cincinnati Bell, but unfortunately, the ribbon cutting for Mount Healthy will be March the 31st during our meetings. And so people are very much aware of when we meet Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to however long it goes. So you have this ribbon cutting in Mount Healthy that none of us can attend, and we are the ones who funded the money. It looks like someone from the state, Houston, Lieutenant Governor Houston will be there, and city, school representatives, and we may have some staff there. But just for anyone who's listening, if you can try to please, especially if we're funding it, to schedule it at a time that at least one of us can appear. It's not okay. So I just wanted to kind of say that. And lastly, as we look at nonprofits, I talked about that a minute ago, and I did some research. Unfortunately, I like to research a lot, but you have one entity that distributed $3.4 million to the community, and we are giving them $250,000. So my question is, where is the hardship? We need to really look into that. That's also another one that continues to get money. And lastly, when I talked about the large event grant, this large event has several, not several, because I don't know how many, but I know of one sponsor. So we need to at least know for that sponsor, how much are they giving? So I'm not gonna go over it again, but I definitely want to say these things out loud, especially about considering our board when you consider inviting us to different places. We certainly want to go. We hardly ever miss where there's no commissioner there. So that's all I have to say, and I'll move on to our administrator, Jeff Aludo.
Thank you, Madam President. So there's 6 by leaves today. I've got one of those, but I'll defer to you as to whether you'd like me to go through the by leave now, or if you wanted to defer to the public hearing.
Why don't we defer to the public hearing? Because there are a lot of people that are waiting. So I'd like to open up the public hearing. It's a public hearing for zone map amendment case, Columbia 2022-01, Pear Lane Townhomes from B residential to DD planned multiple residents. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My name is Nathan Baker with Planning and Development. So I'll go briefly over the case Columbia 2022-01. The site is located north of Wooster Pike in Columbia Township, north of the Marymount Kroger, just east of Marymount and west of Walton Creek Road in the Plainville community. The applicant is proposing to reconfigure 9 existing lots into 8 to build 8 detached single-family townhomes at a density of 7.73 units per acre, requiring the zone change to the D multiple family district, as this is the only residence district that allows single-family homes at this density. The homes would face Elm and Orchard Streets with detached rear entrance garages along Pear Lane, which runs in the center of the site. If I can get the pointer to work. The applicant is also proposing to extend the sanitary sewer system from Walton Creek Road to the west along Pear Lane and then north through lots 6 and 7 towards Beach Streets. Here we go. Beach Streets. So to allow the existing homes to connect to the public sewer system. So here's a view of the site looking from the intersection of Elm Street, which is on your left, to Spring Street, which is on your right, looking southeast. At the existing home that you can see towards the right of the photo, it's proposed to be demolished. And here's a view looking from the opposite direction from Orchard Street. And again, a view from that same point of view, but from Pear Lane. The applicant did submit several photos of homes that act as inspiration for the project. Here are 3 selected examples of those. So the future land use plan map of Columbia Township from the comprehensive plan designates the site as multi-family residential, which includes apartments and other residential buildings where units are next to or stacked on top of one another. The proposed development would be consistent with, staff finds that the proposed development would be consistent with this designation. So there was a public staff review conference held on November 22nd of 2021. The applicant originally proposed 9 single-family homes. Several residents were in attendance during this meeting, and density and sewer availability were 2 main concerns held during that meeting. As a result, the applicant did alter the plans for the zone change amendments application, which you see today. We're reducing the number from 9 to 8 homes and adding a new sanitary sewer line. So staff does recommend approval of the proposed developments and zone amendments with conditions and a variance. The RPC did recommend approval with a vote of 5-0 on February 3rd. The RZC voted 2 for the development and 1 against the development, with 2 members not present at the meeting. As a result, the recommendation was for denial due to the lack of 3 affirmative votes at the time of that meeting. The proposed development has been found to have a consistency with the Columbia Township Comprehensive Plan. And representatives the township trustees have submitted correspondence in support of the project. Representatives for the township are here today to speak on that and to answer any questions. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have of me.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. We'll hold our questions. We have, if it's okay with the board, and we'll just have those who need to speak to come up. And you can take a note of what your question may be. Okay, Kyle Beckham. Okay. To who? Matt Walker. Okay. Oh, he's up next. Okay, Matthew Walker.
And Madam President, if I
Yes.
could, I think I'm not sure if the applicant is in there as well. So you are okay.
Okay, come forward. Yeah, thanks.
It's been a while since I'd been here and I didn't know if I needed to get time and I wanted to make sure I got through things just because of
Sure.
the denial vote. And I'd like to talk through it a little bit, but my name is Matt Walker. I'm the president of WP Land Company and owner of WP Offsite and the site. Start off with how we got here. I found the site. I thought it was a great location for redevelopment within Columbia Township. I looked at the land use plan and did what all developers do. What can I get on it? And, and how does it work? And after many trips to the site, it's a drive that my family and I make regularly. I felt like that I needed to do something that fit in with the existing lots. And if you is there any way I can show the land plan, the layout that you had up? In doing so, what we resulted in was 9 lots that were extremely similar, if not almost exactly the size of the existing lots that surround the location. In doing that, we submitted, we had our first meeting. I heard a lot of comments from the residents. I stopped the meeting. We continued the meeting. I stopped the process. We paused our process for about 45 days. And in that time frame, we had 3 town hall meetings with the adjacent residents. And in those, we made some concessions to help alleviate their concerns and probably get a better project ultimately that's going to fit in even better than I had hoped before. We reduced to 8 lots, which is an 11% reduction. But we also agreed to some other things that I'd like to talk about. One of those is access to future sewer. We create by reducing a lot, we were able to create an easement that allows the properties to the north of the site to attach to a public sewer at such time they want to, but it doesn't drag the sewer to them, which forces them to attach and makes them spend some extra dollars that they may not have been planning for. So it allowed for them to create a plan and access it at the time they needed to. We also agreed, I think there was a large worry about it being a multifamily site. And it's not my intention to be a multifamily site. We would only be able to do it as a single family site. And if we were to change that, we'd have to come in with a rezone. But as part of DD, one of the comments was these houses need to fit within the character of the neighborhood. And I agree. My intention was to build houses that fit within the character all along. So what we agreed to do was to reduce the height of the houses from a 45-foot maximum height allowance under DD to a 35, which is much more similar for a single family residential versus a multifamily residential neighborhood. We added, one of the comments was green space. It's a great mowed lawn now. You're going to put houses on it. You hear that a lot when you do redevelopments, but we did add some significant green space strips to help reduce that. One of them being on the side against Spring Street. So if you look at the very north eastern lot along Spring Street, when we did our redesign, we were able to pull that off that curb, because one of the main comments that came back from, or one of the many comments that came back from the neighbors were, there's a site issue now that's a sharp curve. You're going to put a house on top of it. It's going to make it worse. So in doing the reduction, we were able to pull that off to help alleviate those concerns.
If I could just interject, we normally give 3 minutes for speakers, but because he's presenting the concept, we give him a little more. Not that you're not as important, but I think we need to get a great understanding of what the concept is. So
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll try to be brief and go
That's
through as
okay.
fast as I
Yeah.
can. Also, I was in conversations with some of the neighbors, we agreed to come up with a theming. You know, the location has been there a long time within Columbia Township. It has some relevance, a lot of relevance, if you ask me, and some of the history in the site. And I have agreed to work with them as we develop the plans and to come up with a theming for the neighborhood. We also, if you look at the house to the top 3 lots, there's a lot that is not part of the development to the right. That house actually encroaches our property. The access to it does not work. What we, in our replat, we are going to fix that and actually give them part of the parcel to help get them back get their house back on their lot, and fix some of that. So I felt like the 3 town halls went very well. I felt like we got a better project out of it. And, you know, and we went on. So we had our first meeting, it went well. Our second meeting, if I would have known the history of the voting record of one of the 3 guys voting on the project, I probably would have pulled the project until more people were there. Because as I came to learn later, one of them has never voted in favor of a residential zone change in Columbia Township, which I didn't know that. You know, typically what I would have done was because I felt like I got very positive comments during that meeting. I got comments from that particular vote. However, when I got the no, I was very surprised. And my operation would usually be stop, retreat back. Why do I have a no? And fix that, or get more people involved that to help, you know, get a different decision. With that, we're here, myself, as the developer and builders here. We have Dave Lori with Abercrombie and Associates. He's the engineer of record. We'll be here to help answer any kind of detailed questions you have. And I'll shut up and get out of my 2 minutes.
No, thank you so much for the information and clarity.
Thank you.
Hang around though. Casey Kaling. You're okay? Okay. Mel Taylor.
Good afternoon. I'm the
Afternoon.
Columbia Township Administrator. It's nice to be in person in front of you after several years of Zooms. You're aware from our time together before, Columbia Township is an urban, small community in the eastern part of the county where Columbia Parkway becomes Wooster Pike before the county ends. We are an older community. We are built out. Our only opportunity is to attract new singles and new families to our community because our housing is aging. We don't have a lot of diversity in our housing stock, is through redevelopment or infill development, and neither are easy. And there's usually controversy over both. That is the only way that we can continue to grow our community. This neighborhood is precious. It is just steps away from a corridor with 26,000 trucks and cars every day. But as soon as you step off the corridor into this neighborhood, you go back 100 years. The street grid, when you talk about an urban or new urbanism, this is original urbanism. The street grid is over 100 years old. Many of the streets are named after trees: elm, beech, pear, my favorite. And a lot of the residents have lived here 20 or more years. And Matt Walker is bringing to us a charming, urban, appropriate 8 new homes, single family detached, on 8 houses, on 8 lots, excuse me. What he's also doing is he has spent so much time with my trustees, and Trustee Brian Lamar is here today and would like to speak, and also with the neighborhood. And Matt mentioned that we sat in kumbaya circles together through a number of meetings over 3-4 months. And the neighbors asked him to please add some time to the process and also to reduce the density, which he did. So I just wanted to add, as I close, that this neighborhood has never had sanitation, sanitary sewer. My trustees are prepared through our ARPA grant because he is providing the opportunity to bring sewer in that will connect two streets and a sewer easement to connect to another street, that we would provide grants through a very small ARPA grant that we received to the homeowners to connect at no cost to each property owner, and to bring at least part of the neighborhood that the sewer touches into having very safe sanitary sewer system. So we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. And your other two colleagues signed a support letter, is that correct?
Yes, madam, they
Okay.
did.
All right, thank
Madam
you so
President.
much. Miller?
Thank you. My name is Nina Miller and I live at the corner of Elm and Beach.
Your microphone down just a little so they can hear you in the back. Okay.
My name is Nina Miller and I live on the corner of Elm and Beach in this charming Point community. I appreciate how you introduced our community. That takes some time off of mine. But I want to start by saying that I just appreciate in all the meetings that I've been to with the county that we've started with the Pledge of Allegiance. And in this one, I was most impressed that we also had a time of prayer. And I just want to keep that in mind as we make this decision that that this whole process, we'd like to be a unity thing that we work for for liberty and justice for all. And so that's what we're trying to work through. And we just had some hiccups in joining into on every aspect of this development. Development in this area, we totally welcome, totally. What used to be 2 houses on the existing property that has been proposed on Pear Street, now is proposed to put 8. It's not a blighted area. The homes are maintained. Some of them are older, some of them are small, some of them are large. A new build just went up on Beach Street that is up to close to $1 million home. We have in our community, we have 2 attorneys. We have business owners, at least 2. 2 that I know of, medical professionals, either work in the medical field, such as myself, or work with the community as liaison from the medical field. There's corporate individuals, blue collar workers, construction owners, educators, and we also have our own church, which is where we met for most of our for our meetings. And all of this, it even goes back to George Washington because he surveyed this property. And the draw to this property was the Spring Street. There's an actual freshwater spring there. And of course, then you have the river. So this goes back to where it was called Plainville. We'd like to keep some of that heritage there. There's a lot of history there. It used to be like downtown Plainville on on Walton Creek was Main Street. In saying that, moving on to the density issue is that.
Can you
surely-
sort of wrap it up for me
Okay,
a little bit?
Density,
Okay.
the density part is that we just feel like the homes and the lots need to be right sized appropriately and accordingly. Right now, we have these same size homes with houses on that are half that size. We have larger homes, but they are on larger lot size. We have these two areas here where now it's going to be split down the middle with what looks like urban site type housing and then your little rural type housing. So even though in the pictures, it looks like this, which I would welcome to our community if they were right sized. What we actually have, and I don't know if you can see this, but I can pass this around.
We have the packet, the same packet.
It's not in the packet. This is what I just
Oh,
brought in
okay.
myself.
Okay.
But this, that's gonna. look more like this. Most of the people, when we moved into this area, it was a rural community. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it's still labeled rural.
Mhm.
And it was never, even though the development plan says that this could be maybe multifamily. It was never voted on by the constituents in Hamilton Township. And so the density,
We're gonna have to tie it, you probably got about 5 minutes out of that, but.
okay, all
You
right.
were so sweet, but
Okay.
we need to.
I
move-
thank you so
Okay.
much for the time that you've given me.
Okay, thank you for coming, and we appreciate it.
Okay.
And the residents are even more important than the developers and all. Sorry, you guys.
So it's the
but,
functionality and the congestion of
Yes.
the addition,
Mhm.
plus the Worcester, plus the Walton Creek, who now there's going to be a 30-unit development over there, all dumping into that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Brian Lamar.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm
Good
Brian
afternoon.
Lamar. I'm Vice President of the Trustees of Columbia Township, and I'm here to speak in support of the zoning change. And I'm new to this. I'm a new elected official to the county, and I'm also very new to development. And so there are other experts that will speak on that, like Matt. But what I do know is that when residents have concerns, and they clearly do, I share those concerns, but we need a developer that will work with them. And I've seen cases where the developer will not. And this is clearly a case where he has worked with them. I've been in many of those meetings that he mentioned. I've sat with the community, I've listened to their concerns, and as an elected official, to weigh those is tough, but I think this is really best for the community. I think that this is a beautiful, charming addition to the neighborhood. I think that the sewer is invaluable to that community. And when I talk to other people in other communities, they're astounded that this is a concession that he gave, that they're going to get sewer and they've never had before. And so this is a huge benefit to the community. As an elected official, as Ms. Taylor mentioned, we're committed to helping the community with other concerns, parking, safety, sidewalks, preserving the heritage of it. We all share that. So I'm here to support that, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have one last speaker, Steve Brokamp.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Steve Brokamp. I live in the neighborhood of the proposed development at 4225 Beach Street. We have a great neighborhood with a forgotten past. Our neighborhood was once a major early settlement, as Nina mentioned, surveyed by George Washington and dating back over 240 years. Once located on Main Street, now known as Walton Creek and Varner Roads, our neighborhood was once more densely populated, and it was a town area. The Little Miami Railroad stopped at the base of our neighborhood near a bed and breakfast. Once lotted for as many as 31 homes, our neighborhood has lost 2 full streets and 13 home sites due to road expansion and retail over the years. However, the remaining lots are configured the same, with the same potential density. In fact, there's a beautiful home currently under construction in the same location as the proposed development. It is being built by one of our neighbors for her parents. The new home and 3 surrounding existing homes have average lot densities similar to the proposed development. I support the approval of the development for the following reasons. The Columbia Township trustees have been fantastic resources in this process. The township has committed to working with our residents and the developer to restore the neighborhood's history, identity, and beautification. The restoration of the vacant land with single-family homes will ensure our neighborhood will remain single-family. Our neighborhood will become a safer place to walk due to better signage, marked and managed traffic flow, visibility for motorists not to speed around now empty corners of our streets. I respectfully ask that you approve this development. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for coming. Those are our last speakers. I will open it up for questions from the board. I just had a few comments. I'm hearing lots of benefits. One thing we always ask is about public involvement in public meetings, and it sounds like there were some. And also the fact that the developer was from the input agreeing to alter the plan from 9 to 8 homes is, which was, as he said, 11% reduction, and they don't normally do those things. The Regional Planning Commission unanimously approved it. And also just the fact about the sewer system, that's a major deal. And I like the idea, of course, of green space. And then not last, but the township support is really extremely important. So I will open it up for my colleagues for any questions or comments. Vice President Reese.
Thank you. I think all of those points are very good points. And I really liked the developer, your testimony saying that, you know, when there were initial issues, you stopped, paused the process for 45 days to try to work with the community, work those things out. I also liked the fact mentioned in your strategy that had you known that it, you know, the number of people that showed up would, you know, be barely a quorum, and that one, you know, obviously with that, the Ohio Revised Code, which we are finding out as well, Ohio Revised Code is not a majority. If it's 3, it has to be all 3. And so that puts you in a peculiar situation. I do have one question, though. It seems that the testimony that we had from one of the residents and her willingness to say she, you know, wants to have development and wants to have things positive, and your willingness, obviously, to want the residents, you want a win-win, obviously. She had presented to us the photo, and you presented some photos to us. Photos you presented, she said she would love to have that. I just wondered if you could comment on that, just so we don't have confusion of what it's going to look like. I think the one you presented to us, it seems the resident says it would be good. We say it would be good. You say it would be good. So I'm just want you to get a chance to correct that.
Absolutely, in no way am I going to build that product on the site. It's too tall.
Speak up. just a
Sorry,
little.
it's too tall. It doesn't fit in for the buyer demographic that I'm looking for. It's not probably too expensive to build in today's inflationary building terms. I don't know what else I can say to prove that that is not any intent whatsoever. But that is, when I saw the picture, my first reaction was, in no way is that my intent, nor will I build anything similar to that on the site.
Thank you for that clarification. Because you did present the picture that was held up first, and it seems the resident likes it, you like it, the township likes it. So it seems like it should be a win-win. So thank you for correcting it.
Thank you, Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple questions. And I do want to start out by saying I also appreciate the changes that were made in response to some of the resident concerns, especially related to the traffic pattern and the safety at that corner that you described, and creating less density, which I think is a pretty big deal, actually. So thank you for doing that work. You mentioned theming. I don't know what theming is for a project like this.
So a couple of the neighbors had asked me, there's no real identity. So there's a large history behind this part of Columbia Township and the layout that was there. The fact that George Washington was part of the original surveyors, and there was a wish that it could have a name behind it, like you'd see in a residential subdivision. You know, I don't know, the villas of Hamilton County.
He has a nice
I'm not
ring.
the guy
Yeah.
making the names.
Well, I like that one.
Yeah, I'm not the guy making the names, but you know, and we don't have an agreement. We don't have, you know, and I can't give carte blanche because it has to be, you know, I've got to market the lot, so it can't be, hey, you guys name it and go on, because it could come back something very negative, you know. So but I have stated, and I will put it on record, that we will theme the neighborhood. We will create a name, and we will do that together as part of the final process.
Okay, yeah, I just I didn't know what theming was, so thank you for the clarification. Can you tell us what the price point is for these houses?
Yeah, so it depends on what would cost today. I think the reality is probably somewhere between 450,000 to 650,000, depending on the square footage and the plan that's picked and ultimately the included features that the buyers choose. So if you were to tell me to pick one, I would probably tell you, right in the middle, 550 to 6. They're going to be on the higher side, but no vinyl, all hard, brick, stone, or hardy plank. That's in one of the notes from one of the earlier meetings. So what I would deem a very high quality project.
Thank you. Also, I would like to get some clarity on the sewering, which we are very sensitive to sewers on the county commission, having the ability to, having the responsibility of owning MSD. So I'm not clear on, do all of the properties have access to the sewer line?
They will. There'll have to be some design on their part to get to it. So can we pull up the layout so I can show how it works? It's a pointer. It's going to be good. Hopefully I get this. It's okay. All right. So the sewer manhole that serves the area is here. Okay, as it comes in and the elevation. So there's a house here on this lot, and he has 3 parcels that are his, that are individual. This guy has access to sewer down off of the main drag. Okay, this sewer manhole stops here. I'm bringing the sewer up Pear Lane to service. Right here's the end manhole. So it gives sanitary service to these lots and anything here. What it also does is it sits at an elevation. This elevation is significantly higher than the lower elevation, and it allows for a fairly easy construction of a line to come up here at such time they could either go up beach, service here as they design it. What I didn't want to do is, as I drag the line of sewer across, as you all know, as you drag a public sewer across a septic area, they have to tap on, and there's fees that come with that. So I wanted to be sensitive to not bring it, up to that location, because at that point they would need to tap and it would, in my opinion, create a hardship that somebody maybe is not prepared for. So what I wanted for is to allow access, have all the ability to get to it at such time they have a plan that they can execute. And the township has been willing to work with a plan to help facilitate that, both from a design and a monetary standpoint.
So again, I'm still a little unclear. So are the homes then going to be tapped in, or is that something that is expected to happen in the future? And if the second one is correct, then do they have septic systems or something?
They do. This whole area is septic right now.
Okay.
So that, as I bring the sewer here, any parcel that abuts it needs to tap onto the sewer per the, MSD guidelines. All of my 8 lots will come into the public sewer. And then what I've done is create an easement right here that allows for a sewer stub to come up to serve them at such time that they need it without dragging it there.
Okay. And I don't mean to be critical, because I am inclined to support this, but I just don't know enough to know if typically when a developer goes in and puts new homes on these lots and there's no existing sewer, if typically the developer does that sewering, or if it's often left to the homeowners to tap in to the main line that you are creating.
I'll tell you, there's 2 ways, right? So you would do just like I'm doing. A lot of times they would take it to the edge of their property and drive the future tap. What I've done is create access so that at such time they have a plan, they can get there. But in any development, and I've done a lot in Hamilton County and across greater Cincinnati, 5,000 lots at this point, or better. The developer always puts the infrastructure in that service their homes, and a lot of times it betters other people around them, how they get there. In this instance, and I would definitely be willing to work with that. I think, in my opinion, that would be a bad decision for the residents, so that because they would need to tap sooner, as opposed to being able to devise a plan and tap in. The cost of that line from here to there is not, in the overall scheme, a big expense. But them tapping on, I think it's $8,000 every time they go by the house that they have to come up with.
Okay.
Is that, did I clarify?
Yeah.
Clarified that better.
I'm just not as familiar as maybe I should be with I've never asked a sewering question related to a new development. I've not even thought to ask the question. So I applaud you for running the sewer line. I mean, we've got an unsewered area here, and we're always looking, by the way, to have people tap into main lines into the, because the septic systems have a life. And we oftentimes are trying to get people off septic systems into the main line, tapped into the main line. So I just am not as familiar as I should be with this process and how it generally goes with new development like
Let me
this.
say it differently, because I think I'll help. I think I'll help you. Is I am providing sewer for this area as part of my development, and also I am providing the access to sewer for a much larger area up here at such time that area wants it.
Yeah. Which
Maybe that's a
is-
better way to
Yeah,
say
no,
it.
no, and that's very positive. Yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great, because we don't want to put any extra obligation on the ones that are coming in with the $600,000 homes, but 600,000 is still, I mean, that's 600,000, you can afford it, but we don't want anybody to have to get anything extra put on to what they're doing. Yeah, so, and you did good with the clicker. You were scared of it. I was
afraid I was gonna maybe get her in the forehead or
Yeah.
something. She'd throw something at
You
me.
did well, so, okay.
James, did you have a comment related to that? Yeah.
James Noyes, Director of Planning and Development. I did want to make an additional comment in regards to the sewer. Matt's correct. I mean, typically what you're going to do is on a sewer project.
They can't hear you back there.
Sorry, I remember. My name is James Noyes. I'm not loud. I got to speak more loudly. So, thank you. But typically in a development process, Matt's correct. I mean, you do want to run the sewer to the end of the project. And you take a greenfield development, one you have farms and so forth. You're going to develop that piece of property, but you're going to take it to the next parcel that's out there so that you can connect that to sewer. So that's fairly typical process you would go through from here. In this case, as he's stating, that if you do run that sewer up that easement that they're putting in, then that would force them to tap in. There are already homes there on a farmland and a green space. There's not a home to tap into yet. So they're expanding the sewer. So this would be fairly typical in this case, in an urban development like this, and essentially providing that access. So again, not forcing those folks that are already there in houses, which are on septic systems. And that's the whole point about it, is replacing septic systems when we have a current septic line or a sanitary main that extends to it. Hopefully that clarifies it for you, but I just wanted to provide
Yeah,
that.
no, I wasn't suggesting that any current homeowners have to or obligated to tap into the system. I was asking whether or not the new homes should be tapped in. As a matter of course, instead of having them set up with septic systems, knowing that in the future, we might want to have them tap in to the main line. So that was my question.
Okay,
Thank you.
Just want to make sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for all the speakers, all the comments. It's very rare that you have a developer that seems to be as sensitive to the residents' demands and comments. And so I certainly appreciate that. So, Jeff, did you want to say something? Okay. So if there is no other further discussion, I could make a motion to close the public hearing. And at that point, in 2 weeks, they could bring forth a resolution. With no further discussion or questions, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes,
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
thank you. Thank you all very much. So we'll go back to Jeff, our county administrator.
Thank you, Madam President. No by-leave comments today. I do have, there are 6 by-leaves. Most of those relate to board and commission appointments, which, Madam President, I'll defer to you on those if you would like. Otherwise, I can just read through them. But the first by-leave is an amendment to our agreement with Carasoft. That is the software that facilitates the workflow for our emergency rental assistance program. The purpose of the amendment is to add a platform for allowing for the mortgage assistance program, which we have added on through ARPA, as well as to add some customer service improvements so that people begin to receive a preliminary approval after they've provided the information and they're attesting to the hardship that they'd faced through COVID, et cetera. So similar to how in the past there'd been a request that this function a little bit more like TurboTax, where someone gets a notification after they've submitted that you're kind of in the queue. This would be similar to that in nature. So this does a couple of things, but the primary thing, the bulk of the change to the contract relates to the adding of the mortgage assistance programming into this. So with that, I know Director Michael Patton is here from Job and Family Services, capable of adding additional detail than what I was able to provide, and certainly able to answer any questions.
Sure, certainly. Are there any, welcome.
Thank you,
Are
Commissioners.
there any comments or questions as it relates to by leave one? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve by leave one.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you. And Jeff, I'll proceed on the boards and commissions. Our office basically has to, my chief of staff works hard toward, with the other offices, of course, to fill all the vacancies for the boards and commissions. And we have, as I was saying last week, lots of people that are interested in being on the boards and commissions. We want you to continue to apply. There are still vacancies that will be coming up that you can be a part of. So by leave two, resolution appointing 6 members to the Elderly Services Program Advisory Council, Susan Van Armarangen. If anybody knows that, I'm sorry, Susan, if I did not do it right. Lavina Bryant, Dimity Orlet, Diana Slavin, Viola Brown, and Matthew Worth. So I make a motion to,
Can I make a comment before we?
sure.
I just wanted to, certainly all of them, but I wanted to highlight Ms. Viola Brown. We always talk about having new people, and as you advertised almost every week to tell people to, apply, and we need, people to be involved. And she did apply, but she also came to our meeting, and I think she testified about seniors. She does a lot of she is a senior herself and just volunteers, but she expressed, such passion and concern. And so one of the things we said, hey, this is a way maybe you can be involved and be at the table and share those ideas. So just wanted to say she came to our meeting, and also we told her to apply, and Ms. Viola, now you are about to be on the board. So again, like you said, people apply and be involved because we're looking for new people to also participate. So just wanted to highlight there.
Thank you, Commissioner Dreehouse.
No, this goes for really all of the boards. I am grateful for the individuals that have stepped up and are willing to serve in this way. So thank you to all of them.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to adopt by leave two.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you. By leave three is a resolution appointing members to the Board of Trustees of the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority. Larry Thompson, Thaddeus Hoffmeister, Chelsea Clark, Trenton Aminiker, and Krista Lewis. Any discussion? No.
So on this one, these members are being reappointed, some of them are new, but some of them had very short timeframes because when we transitioned to the sort of being under the authority primarily of the county, the board had to shift. So again, thank you to these folks. And I think Trenton Eminecker and Krista Lewis are new. They're non-voting members from other counties.
Great. Now see, we have a union person on there, which is always good. I'd like to make a motion to adopt by leave three.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you. By leave four, resolution appointing 1 member to the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority Board of Directors, Cinnamon Pelly. Any discussion? I'd like to make a motion to adopt by leave four.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. By leave 5, resolution appointing one member to the Hamilton County Rural Zoning Commission, David Steinride. Any discussion? I'd like to make a motion to adopt by leave 5.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. By leave 6, resolution appointing 2 members to the Hamilton County Facilities Governing Board for River City Correctional Institute, Leah Dennis Ellsworth and Deanna Hoskins. Any discussion? I would only say that Deanna Hoskins is a strong advocate for reentry and everything that deals with criminal justice. So, and I'm sure Leah will be a great addition also. I'd like to make a motion to adopt by leave 6.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And once again, I'd like to thank my chief of staff, Bishop Hilton, along with the other officers and their chief of staff that have helped in this effort. Thank you so much. With nothing else on our agenda, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Rest of the agenda.
I know I'm sorry. I know.
That's
Wow, so that was quick. And he's laughing too hard over there. But anyway, I apologize. I know. We have consent agenda items 1 through 21. And I'll just say just a general comment about some of them under the auditor's office. We have financial transactions that we need to approve for December, January, February 2022. No money was involved in that. We're just completing the financial transactions. Under the Board of County Commissioners, there's an easement to conveyance for Duke Energy. Under Commission Administration, just a few things that we're looking at trying to approve. Reconciliation of the Board of Election reserve. We have a reserve from them. And also we have a budget adjustment for grants for juvenile court and facilities. Some other items that are on the consent agenda item are bid authorization for equipment for the coroner. We have a contract for the elevator company. And I wanted to ask a question, Jeff, is this the same company we've been using, or is this a new company? I know there are not a lot of elevator companies around.
We have used multiple companies for
Uh-huh.
this. So Otis is a company that we have used in the past. We've also used other companies as well. Typically, when we go out to bid for elevator repair, it just depends upon the bids that come in. So yes, we have used them in the past, but we've also used others.
And how often do we go out for bid for the elevator?
We've been out for quotes probably more often than we'd liked right now, but I don't know exactly how many times we got for standard bids on it, but I can get you that information.
Yeah, I'm being nice right now, but they did get our elevator back working. Well, one of them.
They did, but it's
Yeah.
been down several times over the past couple of weeks. Yes.
And, okay. All righty. So we'll move on. We have a purchase order in behalf of JFS that we're approving for $150,000. Under Human Resources, we had a review for our county administrator, and the board felt that he was doing a very good job, and we did approve, or we're going to approve, a 3% increase for him. And under JFS, there are 3 foster care services that we're approving. 1 parenting services we're approving. And under foster care, let's see, I already had that. Okay. So the majority are foster care, as I was saying. So I'll say again, just to be repetitive, I guess, that we're very happy as a board that our services are majority within our region, within Hamilton County. And I'm glad we were able to continue to do that. And then we have another planning and development. We have a resolution authorization for agreement with the Inspection Bureau, no money involved. And then the public defender superseding fee schedule that was established in January of 2021. And of course, we have our monthly investment report from the treasurer for February of 2022. So those are the items 1 through 21 that I have. Just a general overview. Vice President Reese, do you have any comments or questions?
No comments or questions on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes, I have a comment related to item 5. This
Mhm.
is the Board of Elections allocation. So while I think this is, well, I know this is a standard course of action, I thought this was related to the anticipation of possibly more than, 3 elections this year instead of 2. And so the Board of Elections is under a great deal of strain right now, not knowing when the primary is, how many we're going to have. It's just been very complicated because of the action, or rather inaction, up in Columbus related to the new lines for the congressional districts and the State House districts. So I was going to say much more because I thought this was related to that. So I'm going to hold there. But I foresee that we're going to have an additional allocation here in the future when that gets resolved. If we have additional elections that the Board of Elections is going to have to conduct. So I will reserve my comments for that time, but do want to indicate that this probably is not the last time we're going to see a huge allocation to the Board of Elections related to the election process this year.
Thank you. And Jeff, did we not get an additional allocation from I think John said last week, like 400,000 for if we
Yeah, there
need
was some,
more
I believe
money?
there was some additional state funding coming. There was some legislation as well that was supposed to allocate additional. I can follow up with the board on that.
Yeah.
This, as was mentioned, is a routine allocation from the election reserve to steady out the expenditure of Board of Election funding. It's for the public's information. Our Board of Election spending will vary from year to year, just based upon the number of elections, whether it's a presidential election, et cetera. And so as opposed to budgeting in peaks and valleys, years ago, we created a reserve that we pull from in the heavy expenditure years and we add to in the low expenditure years, just so we can budget more flat and consistently.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt items 1 through 21.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas,
Yes.
Commissioner Reese,
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. With no further business coming before us, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas,
Yes.
Commissioner Reese,
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you.